If you have the courage to hear the full nightmare, stay till the end. And don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell to uncover more terrifying stories like this. I opened my eyes at 3:11 a.m., and dozens of human faces were floating above my bed, staring directly at me. The room was cold enough to sting my skin. I couldn't breathe. The faces were pale, stretched too thin, mouths hanging open like torn paper. Their eyes bulged, unblinking, glowing faintly blue in the darkness. I didn't know whether to scream or stay silent, and then one of the faces moved. It drifted closer, hovering inches from my nose. Its jaw cracked sideways, breaking like dry branches. "Don't move," it whispered. A pressure crushed my chest, freezing me in place. I tried to lift my arm. Nothing. I tried to turn my head, paralyzed. Behind the whispering face, dozens more gathered, forming a wide circle around my bed. Then all at once they vanished. Not slowly, not fading. They blinked out, like switching off a screen. My body jerked violently as I regained movement. I rolled off the bed, hit the floor, scrambled backward until my spine slammed into the wall. I stayed there, shaking, staring at the empty air above my bed. For a moment, I actually convinced myself I had imagined it. Then I saw the fingerprint marks. Dark, smudged fingerprints covered my blanket, my pillow, even the wall above me, as if dozens of hands had pressed against the surfaces while watching me sleep. A sudden knock echoed from the hallway. 3 slow knocks. Not on the door, on the wall, right beside my head. I froze, listening as the knocks dragged upward from the floor to the ceiling, like someone crawling inside the wall. My phone buzzed. A notification glowed. "We saw you wake up." Unknown number. No profile photo. Just those words. I didn't touch the phone. Couldn't. The knock stopped. Silence. Then my bedroom light flickered once, twice, and switched off completely. Darkness swallowed everything. And from that darkness, a voice whispered, "Look at us again. If you're still reading, don't stop now. The real horror starts in now." The darkness wasn't empty. Not anymore. I felt movement, soft, slow, circling. I held my breath, listening to the faint scrape of something sliding across the floor. My phone screen dimmed and died, leaving me blind. Then something cold brushed my ankle. I kicked instinctively, hitting nothing. My heart hammered so loudly it drowned every other sound. I crawled toward the door, fingers trembling, searching for the knob. Halfway there, a hand grabbed my wrist. Thin, icy, fragile like brittle wood. I screamed and yanked my arm back, but the hand tightened, pulling me toward the darkness under the bed. My nails scratched the floor as I fought. The grip felt wrong, not human. The bones shifted under the skin like something alive wriggling beneath. Another hand grabbed my shoulder. Another clamped onto my ankle. I was being dragged. "Stop fighting," a voice hissed from the shadows. "You woke us." My fingers finally hit the door frame. I pulled with every ounce of strength I had. One final desperate jerk, and somehow broke free. I tumbled into the hallway, slamming the door shut behind me. Instantly, the banging started. Dozens of fists hammering from inside my room. The entire door shook on its hinges as if something huge was throwing its weight against it. The wood cracked. Splinters shot out. I backed away, shaking violently. Then the banging stopped. Not gradually. Just like before. Perfect, total silence. My breathing echoed down the hallway, loud, ragged. I started toward the front door, but halfway there, the lights in the hall flickered, then turned blood red. The air grew thick, heavy. I heard faint breathing behind me. I turned slowly. At the far end of the hallway, a single face floated, brighter and clearer than the others. This one wasn't distorted. It looked perfectly human. Too human. It was my face. Same eyes. Same nose. Same expression. But its mouth was twisted upward into a sickening smile. Then it whispered, "They want you. All of you." The face began drifting toward me. And behind it, dozens more emerged from the red darkness. The hallway stretched unnaturally long, like the walls were breathing, expanding, tightening, forcing me trapped inside a tunnel of pulsing red light. My duplicate face kept drifting toward me, smiling wider with every second. The other faces followed behind it like a swarm of floating corpses. I backed away slowly, heartbeat thundering in my ears. The air vibrated with whispers. "Come back. Come closer. We're not done." Their voices overlapped, dozens of tones blending into one suffocating chorus. I pressed my back against the wall, trying to steady my breathing, trying to think, but terror had already taken over. Then the duplicate face opened its mouth. Not wide, unhinged. Its jaw cracked open like splitting stone. Thin strands of skin tore apart with wet, ripping sounds. A black mist spilled out of its mouth and began spreading across the hallway floor like smoke made of shadows. The mist wrapped around my ankles, cold as death. I stepped back, my foot landed on something soft. I turned. A face floated right behind me, inches away, staring straight into my eyes. Its pupils dilated, stretching until they filled the entire eye. I stumbled sideways, nearly falling, but the mist tightened like hands gripping my legs. The duplicate face drifted closer, too close. Then it spoke in my exact voice. "You were supposed to stay asleep." My stomach twisted. "No," I whispered. "No, get away." The lights flickered. Then everything went black. Not the normal kind of dark. This darkness swallowed sound. Swallowed air. I felt the world vanish around me. The ground beneath my feet dissolved, replaced by cold nothingness. Then breathing. Not mine. Dozens of breaths surrounding me in the pitch black. A whisper brushed my ear. "We see better when you don't." Suddenly, fingers, cold, bony, ran across the back of my neck. I jerked away, but another set touched my shoulder. Another brushed my cheek. Then dozens more grabbed my arms, my back, my hair, pulling me down into the darkness beneath my feet. I kicked and screamed, but the darkness felt like thick, living mud, dragging me deeper. A hand covered my mouth. Another wrapped around my throat. I sank further, swallowed whole. Just when I thought I was going to suffocate, the lights snapped on. I fell onto solid floor, gasping. I wasn't in the hallway anymore. I was standing in my living room. My TV was on, static flooding the screen. The entire room was trashed, furniture overturned, pictures ripped off the walls, deep scratch marks carved into the floorboards as if something had crawled in circles for hours. My phone buzzed on the table. A new message. "You left your door open." Before I could react, the front door slowly, silently, swung wider. And outside, in the darkness, 100 faces floated in the air, watching me from the yard. "If you're still here, stay with me." Next is much worse. I stood frozen, staring at the yard filled with floating faces. They hovered motionless, hundreds of them, silent, watching, waiting like a congregation of the dead attending some unspoken ritual. Their eyes glowed faintly, reflecting the dim porch light, each expression twisted in a different shape of pain. My skin crawled as the cold wind carried the faintest whisper. "Come outside." My throat tightened. I stepped back slowly, careful not to make a sound. But the wooden floor creaked beneath my heel. Every single face snapped toward me at the same time. Not gradually. Instantly. I stumbled backward, slamming into the wall. Their mouths stretched open in perfect unison, revealing rows of needle-thin teeth. A vibration traveled through the air, a low, guttural hum that rattled the windows. Then the porch light flickered violently and blew out. Darkness swallowed the yard. Only their eyes remained, hundreds of tiny blue orbs floating closer. I ran, not toward the hallway, not toward my bedroom. I sprinted for the basement door, my last instinctual hope to find somewhere, anywhere, to hide. I yanked it open and rushed down the stairs, slamming the door behind me. The basement smelled like cold cement, dust, and something metallic. I pressed my back against the wall, sucking in sharp breaths. Silence. For almost 10 seconds, nothing happened. Then the sound came. A slow, soft scratch at the basement door, like fingernails dragging across wood. Scratch, scratch, scratch. My legs trembled. I looked around for something to defend myself with, spotting a rusted metal pipe leaning beside the furnace. I grabbed it tightly. My palms were sweating. The scratching stopped. Another sound replaced it, this time from inside the basement. A faint shuffle. Then another, like someone moving in the far corner behind the boxes. My breath hitched. "Who's there?" A whisper answered from the darkness. "You shouldn't have run." I whipped the pipe toward the voice, but it was too dark to see. I stepped back, shaking the pipe with both hands. A light flickered on overhead, just a weak bulb, but enough to reveal the far wall. My stomach dropped. Dozens of faces were embedded in the basement wall. Not floating. Embedded. Their stretched skin blended into the concrete. Their mouths opened slowly as if waking up. Their eyes rolled toward me one by one, moving sickeningly beneath thin veils of skin. Then I realized something worse. They weren't just faces. They had bodies inside the walls. Human shapes, distorted, packed into the concrete as if the wall had swallowed them alive. Their arms pressed outward, fingers twitching beneath cracked cement. Their ribs shifted, skin tearing slightly as they pushed harder. One face opened its mouth wider and whispered, "We were here first." The wall bulged. Hands started breaking through the surface. The concrete cracked, splitting, peeling open like rotten flesh. Arms reached out, grasping the air for me. I turned toward the stairs. That's when I saw the basement door slowly opening. And behind it, my own face smiled down at me. My duplicate stood at the top of the stairs, smiling down at me with a calmness that made my bones freeze. The basement light flickered above me, casting long shadows across the walls where the trapped bodies writhed, pushing harder through the cracked concrete. The duplicate tilted its head, just slightly, but the motion was too smooth, too slow, like its neck was bending on wires. "You kept running," it said in my own voice. "That makes them hungry." The wall behind me split open. Not cracked, split, with a thunderous sound like bones snapping under pressure. A dozen hands burst through, clawing the air, scraping the floor, reaching for my legs. I swung the pipe wildly, smacking two of the hands away, but more burst through immediately, dragging the concrete chunks with them. I backed toward the stairs instinctively, but my duplicate stepped down the first step, then the second, then the third. Each step pressed the old wood under its weight, but its body made no sound. Not a breath, not a shift of clothing, nothing. Just silence and my face staring blankly at me. I turned and dashed between the furnace and the shelves, desperate to put anything between me and it. The furnace rattled as I brushed past, sending sparks of dust into the air. Behind me, the duplicate reached the basement floor. Its footsteps were silent. The hands erupted further from the wall, grabbing at my ankles. I smashed them with the pipe, breaking fingers, shattering wrists, but every broken limb melted into the concrete and reformed. "Stop fighting," my duplicate said. "You're only making this worse." I shoved a heavy toolbox toward the wall bodies. It clattered loudly across the floor, buying me seconds. I darted behind the water heater, squeezing into the shadow between rusted metal and the cement wall. For a moment, everything went quiet. Too quiet. I held my breath. Then, slowly, the duplicate's head rotated. Not its body, just the head. It turned all the way around, spinning until its face was looking directly behind itself, toward me. Its neck tendons stretched like ropes pulling too tight. "I can see you," it whispered. Its body followed the turn, twisting unnaturally, bones snapping like dry twigs. I bolted from my hiding spot, rushing for the stairs. The moment my foot hit the bottom step, the wall behind me exploded, sending concrete dust and faces pouring onto the floor. The trapped bodies tumbled out, crawling, dragging themselves across the ground with broken limbs. I sprinted up the stairs two at a time. Halfway up, a hand grabbed my ankle. A familiar hand. My hand. I looked back and saw my duplicate on all fours, spider-like, climbing the stairs behind me. Its mouth stretched from ear to ear, teeth spilling out as it hissed. "You're not supposed to leave." I kicked its face with all my strength. Its jaw detached, hanging by thin strings of flesh. It didn't react. It simply grabbed my leg again, harder this time, pulling. The basement lights flickered, then went out. Darkness. And in that darkness, 100 voices whispered, "We found you." The darkness wasn't silent this time. It thrashed with movement. Dozens, no, hundreds, of bodies dragged themselves across the basement floor. I couldn't see them, but I felt them. The air trembled with their crawling, scraping, snapping bones. My duplicate's grip tightened around my ankle, its fingers digging into my skin like hooks. I kicked again, harder, my heel smashing into its eye. A wet crack echoed. Its head jerked sideways, but its grip only tightened, bones grinding as its dislocated jaw swung uselessly. I clawed at the stairs, pulling myself up one step. 2 steps. My fingers burned as splinters dug under my nails. Then a voice whispered directly into my ear. "You can't outrun what you are." A hand, icy, skeletal, grabbed my wrist from behind. Not my duplicate. One of the wall creatures had reached the stairs. I panicked and jerked forward, my chest slamming into a step. The impact knocked the air from my lungs, but momentum ripped me free for a moment. I scrambled up another step, and suddenly the basement lights snapped on again. So bright it hurt. I froze at the top of the stairs, dizzy from the sudden light. Below me, the sight was worse than anything I had imagined. The basement was full. Every wall had split open completely. Human forms poured out, twisted bodies, long limbs, faces stretched too thin, ribs poking through translucent skin. They crawled over one another like a swarm of insects, hands clawing blindly, mouths hanging open in silent screams. But the worst part, they all had my face. Dozens of versions of me. Broken, twisted, deformed, crawling toward the stairs. Every single one whispered in my voice, "Don't leave us behind." My blood ran cold. My duplicate, still holding my ankle, twisted its head back into place with a sickening crack. It lifted itself on its arms and legs, bending backward unnaturally like a puppet on broken strings. "Stay," it said. "We need you." I tore my leg free with a violent kick that left its cheek torn open. Flesh dangled from its face, revealing bone beneath. I sprinted the last few steps, slamming my shoulder into the basement door. It didn't budge. Something heavy pressed against the other side. I shoved harder. The door creaked. Something on the other side shoved back. Then I heard her voice. My voice. "Let me out." The duplicate was right behind the door. I stumbled backward, trapped between the basement horde and my own replicated voice. The door handle twisted violently. The wood splintered. A hand, my hand, forced its way through the crack. "No, no," I whispered. The door exploded inward. My duplicate stood there, its neck bent sideways, its skin peeling off like wet paper. Behind it, dozens of my twisted copies climbed the stairs in a shaking, writhing mass. And then, the house lights all went out. Pitch darkness swallowed everything except for one thing. A single glowing message on my phone lying on the floor. "They are not copies. They are the versions of you that never survived." Next digs into the horrifying truth you're not ready for. The message on my phone glowed in the dark like an exposed nerve. "They are the versions of you that never survived." My stomach twisted. My breath caught in my throat. I bent down slowly, hands shaking, to grab the phone, but before my fingers touched it, a bare foot stepped onto the screen. A foot identical to mine. My duplicate leaned down so close that I could feel its breath, cold, damp, wrong, spill across my face. Its skin was peeling from its jawline, hanging like torn fabric. Its eye twitched rapidly, as if something inside was trying to escape. "There are so many of us," it whispered, "and only one of you left." Behind it, the staircase trembled as the other versions, my dead versions, crawled upward. Their bodies cracked with every movement, ribs snapping, joints twisting, fingers dragging across wood. The air filled with the thick, wet sounds of bone grinding bone. I backed away until my shoulders hit the living room wall. The house groaned. Not from weight, from presence. The lights flickered on for a single second, and I saw them clearly. My faces, my bodies, my broken, twisted selves spilling into the hallway, collapsing over each other, pulling themselves forward, whispering in one voice. "You didn't die, so you owe us." The lights died again. In the dark, hands brushed my legs. Fingers curled over my wrists. Something cold pressed against the back of my neck. "No, get off me." I thrashed violently, kicking, clawing, desperate. Then suddenly, all hands let go. Silence. A deep, slow inhale echoed through the house. Not from the duplicates, from something else, something bigger. I felt the floor vibrate beneath my feet, as if something enormous was moving under the house. The walls groaned. The ceiling cracked. Dust drifted down like snow. My duplicate stepped back, lowering its head as if bowing. "They're awake," it whispered. The other versions of me froze completely. Then in perfect unison, they turned their heads toward the living room window. Something stood outside. I couldn't see it fully, only the silhouette. Massive, bent, wrongly shaped. Dozens, no, hundreds, of faces covered its body, shifting like living skin. Not floating faces, not embedded faces. Faces attached to something alive. One of those faces, my face, pressed outward from the creature's chest, stretching the skin until it almost tore. Its mouth moved. "You belong to us." The creature leaned closer to the window. The glass bowed inward, warping around its outline. My chest tightened. My breathing stuttered. Every instinct screamed run. I bolted toward the back door, grabbing the handle. The metal burned my hand like fire. I yanked it open anyway and stumbled outside into the cold night air. For a brief, terrifying moment, I thought I was safe. Then I saw the yard. Every face that had floated earlier. Every version of me from the basement. Every whispering shape. They weren't behind me anymore. They were in front of me, standing still, waiting, silent. And the giant creature stepped into the yard behind them. The ground trembled. Its shadow swallowed mine at the final cliffhanger you'll never forget. The creature's shadow swallowed the entire yard, stretching over me like a living darkness. Its movements were slow, deliberate, almost patient. Hundreds of faces shifted beneath its skin, screaming silently, pressing outward as if begging to be released. And each face was me. My broken versions. My failed versions. My dead versions. The floating faces that once filled the air now formed a circle around me, hovering inches above the ground, glowing faintly blue. Their mouths hung open, waiting. My heart pounded so loud it felt like it was shaking my entire body. The creature stepped forward again. The earth trembled. I tried to run left. The floating faces drifted, blocking me. I tried to run right. More faces slid silently into my path. Every direction was sealed. My breath turned to white vapor in the freezing air. My bones vibrated from the creature's low, rumbling growl. Somewhere behind me, I heard the house groan and collapse, wood snapping, glass shattering, walls buckling inward. I didn't look back. I couldn't. The creature lowered its massive head toward me. A cluster of eyes formed on its forehead. All of them mine. A voice, my voice, whispered from every direction. You survived too long. You're the last one left. You have to join us. My knees buckled. The ground beneath me rippled like something alive. Cold fingers, dozens of them, broke through the dirt, grabbing my ankles, pulling me downward. I screamed and kicked, but the soil swallowed their hands and replaced them with more. My duplicates stepped closer, their bodies twitching, bending, cracking. One of them leaned down beside my ear and whispered, "Don't fight it. You were always meant to come back." The dirt tightened around my legs, now up to my calves, cold, suffocating. I clawed at the ground, ripping handfuls of grass, but the earth pulled harder, like a hungry mouth trying to swallow me whole. The creature extended a giant hand toward me. Its fingers split at the tips, each opening into a face. Mouths, eyes, teeth, all of them screaming. "No, no, no, let me go!" I shouted, my voice cracking. For a moment, everything stopped. The creature froze. The floating faces dimmed. The duplicates stilled. Then a deep, thunderous voice rumbled from inside the creature. Not my voice, not theirs. Something older, heavier, hollow. "You were never meant to live." The earth yanked me down another inch. My ribs felt like they would shatter from the pressure. My hands slipped deeper into the mud as I tried to climb out, nails breaking. The duplicates formed a perfect circle around me. Their eyes glowed. Their mouths opened. And they all whispered in perfect unison, "Join us." The creature raised its massive hand to strike. The faces shrieking. The ground opening beneath me like a grave. A blinding light suddenly flooded the yard. Red and blue flashes. Sirens. Voices yelling. I turned my head just enough to see. Police. Running toward the house. Flashlights cutting through the darkness. The creature roared. The duplicates scattered like smoke. The floating faces blinked out, gone. The hands in the earth released me. Everything vanished in a split second. I collapsed face first into the grass, gasping, trembling, barely conscious. The officers reached me, flipping me onto my back, shouting questions I couldn't answer. My ears rang. My vision blurred. My body shook uncontrollably. One officer pointed at my house. His face went pale. They dragged me toward the cars. I couldn't walk. I kept whispering. "They were here. They were here." An officer held a flashlight to my face. "Stay with me. Don't close your eyes. Listen." Another officer shouted from the porch. "We found something on the security footage." Every cop rushed toward him. I forced my head up, trying to see. The officer rewound the footage on his phone, played it back, and everyone went silent. The video showed my bedroom, my bed, my sleeping body. I wasn't awake. I wasn't running. I wasn't screaming. I wasn't fighting anything. I was lying perfectly still. And then, something shaped like me stood up from beside the bed and walked toward the door. The cops turned slowly to look at me. I wasn't breathing, because the creature's voice whispered one last time from directly behind me. You were never the one who survived. If you enjoyed this horror story, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and turn on the bell icon for more terrifying stories.